now, what you've all been waiting for. The most spectacular Christmas special in the whole entire world for Craftum. Day 2.
It's day 3.
No, it's day 2.
You already put out another video and you didn't do the introduction.
Why didn't you tell me? I missed it.
I was busy.
What? How could you do this to me? It's supposed to be spectacular and it's supposed to go in order. Day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, for gosh sakes. And now, for the most epic, superbulous Christmas special you've ever seen in your life, day 3.
It's much better. I pulled out some Ranger Tim Holtz Distress Oxide ink in the broken china, and I placed the broken china ink on an acetate that I had laying around. And I spritzed it with some water, and I grabbed the acetate and I did a technique called smushing on the front side of the cards. I moved the ink from each one, and then I brought out my heat gun to heat set the ink. Then I pulled out some iced spruce and did the same technique to give it a little bit more dimension. At this point in the card, I think that I'm going to be using these die-cut Christmas trees, so that's why I'm testing them out. I also pull out my brush and I do some splatters on the front of the piece because I didn't think that it had enough blue, so I mixed it with a little bit of excess water and started spritzing some of the papers. I'm getting better with my spritzes, but I still have like paint and ink all over my craft area, and I try really hard to keep it clean. I don't do a very good job.
Yeah, you need a cleaning lady. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Boop-a-doop-a-boo. Yeah, I don't know the rest of the words.
I kind of figured that. I pulled out my heat gun and heat set both of the cards and dabbed it with a paper towel to take off any excess water or ink. And here you can kind of see I'm messing around with some die cuts that I had pre-cut before I started doing any of the cards, and I pulled out some Be Merry sentiments that I pulled out from the Paper Studio Holiday Foil book. Then I also pulled out some Tim Holtz Ranger tree line dies that I had cut because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I have the tree lines underneath the sentiment, and I decided to pull out another tree line die from Tim Holtz, which I die cut in a different color paper, evergreen, and I decided layering them was the best look, but I still brought out the negative space of the die just to see what that would look like. Then I pulled out some twine to see if I liked that look with it, and I did, but I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to use it. Once I was kind of sure what I wanted to do, I decided to take out my double-sided tape ATG gun, and I taped both of the tree lines to the card. What's nice about this is that I could do 2 cards at once, and I really felt like I was more productive than just doing 1 card at a time. So I'm starting to learn that having a plan up front about what I'm going to do with my designs is probably ideal.
Christmas time, Christmas time.
So I took out some malt matte medium and I glued the other tree line on top of the other. I also took out some foam tape and placed that on the back of the sentiment. Not sure where I should put it. If I should put it on the very bottom of the card or up a little bit so that the white is showing underneath it. After a while, I tried both ways and figured out that it looks a little bit better with a little bit of white underneath it. I took out my precision tip applicator filled with matte medium. It's like a glue. And I placed some twine underneath that gap where the foam tape sat.
Do-wop, 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 do-wop. Christmas time is here again. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop.
It's not even a Christmas song.
Well, does it have to be?
But I thought you wanted this to be a Christmas special.
Oh, for gosh sakes.
Then I also took out a birch tree stencil that I've had for a little while, and I was really eager to use. I taped down the stencil, and I thought, well, I'll put some birch trees down, and I'll figure it out as I go. I took out my sponge daubers, and I started out with the Tim Holtz Distress Oxide ink in the ice spruce, and started dabbing that on the card. I wasn't sure if I should dab or if I should streak the cards with the ink, but my decision I think was best by dabbing it on the card because it kind of looks like a snowy, cloudy fog rather than a bunch of streaks of ink on the card. I also took out some broken china ink and dabbed that in alongside with the ice spruce, just kind of add some blue color into the mix. What I really enjoyed about this ink on this really dark card stock is that it's opaque and it isn't translucent. You can see the actual whiteness of the ink. I then spritzed it and dabbed off the excess water, had it react to the ink, and then used some picket fence distress paint and spritzed some snowflakes onto the card. I really liked this look. I thought it was fun and festive and a little bit cartoony, and I love cartoony. I think it's a great style, and I like the little bit of realism with the non-realism. I decided to make a second card to make a pair for the other one because I did have 4 sentiments to use up. This one went way quicker than the original one because I kind of knew what I was doing and what to expect. Like I said before, it's so much easier when you have a plan because that's when things kind of go really quickly. And as I craft more and more, I'm starting to learn tricks of the trade, I guess. I again spritzed it with water, did the spritz and flick technique, which I teach you with the Tim Holtz Distress Ink Kit. So once I had that complete, I let that dry and I pulled out the twine cards with the tree line. I trimmed those up on the side and here you have it, folks. Be merry.
Oh, that's really nice. I like that. It looks like you meant to do it.
I did mean to do it. As you can see, I am pulling out every kind of thing possible to figure out what I'm going to do with this set of cards. I pulled out sequins, twine, rope, die-cut snowflakes, die-cut trees. I bunched up a bunch of string, everything you can imagine. I tried over and over. I'm like, what am I gonna do? And then all of a sudden, I was playing around with the string and I was like, oh my gosh, I have some leftover Christmas bulbs that I found on clearance like a year ago at Michael's. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to totally use those up. This is a perfect way to do it. So I took my string and I kind of laid out all the pieces on the card and I put some foam tape on the back of the sentiments and got those adhered and then started working on the string. This string had a mind of its own.
Oh, for gosh sakes! It was possessed! I want to be in the woods with the birch trees and the Christmas lights and the snow falling, and I think that would be really pretty.
Once I got those all arranged, I took out my matte gel medium and use that as a glue. You can kind of see that the matte medium on the white bulb kind of shows through as white, and I didn't like that, so I had to cover it all up so it showed everything as white. And this matte gel medium does dry clear, so I thought that over time that whiteness would disappear, but even after a couple days it still looked white, which is fine with me because I think that the color of the bulbs look better with the matte gel medium behind it. So I also added some matte gel medium to the strings just to make sure they wouldn't move. And I moved on to the second card, which I would love to say went a little quicker than the first, but it didn't because that string was crazy
and possessed by the devil. Now everybody should pray.
Okay, nobody's gonna come and get us.
You don't know that. Why do we even hang Christmas lights? Christmas lights, Christmas lights. The tradition of lighting the tree with small candles dates back to the 17th century and originated in Germany before spreading to Eastern Europe. The small candles were attached to the tree branches with pins or melted wax. Different colored candles also represented different qualities. For example, a white candle represented the purity of Christ, whilst a pink candle represented joy, symbol of the light, hope, and good in the world. The Christmas lights also serve to remind good Christians to provide light to others. Shine bright, my friends. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the blah blah delight. Oh, blah 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 blah. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Boop 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 boop.
I had a really good time creating these pieces. I think to date, they're probably my absolute favorite cards that I've ever created, and I hope you like them too. Thanks for joining me today. Until next time, love you guts. Bye.
And that concludes the most epic, superfluous edition of Day 3 Christmas special that you've ever seen in your whole entire life.
You think it was their best ever that they've ever seen?
Yeah, it's totally the best thing they've ever seen in their life.
Okay.